So I'm Farouk Ahmed. I have been working in the IT for almost 23 years now, and in the Salesforce platform for a little bit over 15 years now. Um, I've done so many different kind of role within the Salesforce, but today the topic is more about how to do a successful Salesforce implementation, and because most of my careers I've been implementing Salesforce, either from a vendor perspective or within the company itself. So whatever experience I've gathered so far, I'm just going to share with you guys so that you guys can take benefit out of it. And I mean, look, something I'm going to tell you may because maybe already familiar, or I hope that you guys gonna get a fresh set of ideas after this presentation. Hopefully, you could use some and become a successful implementer of Salesforce as well. So that's the entire plan. Okay, so let me
Yeah.
share my screen because I have a few slides to present, and of course, I know. Look, I'm more than happy to be interrupted and answer questions if you guys have, or we can do it after the session as well.
Yeah, you can also write in the chat box if someone have any question.
Please, sure. Let me share my screen first. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, wonderful. So, look, the idea is, as I said, I'm gonna give you a bit of my experience. As I said, at the moment, the company I'm working is called Dexis, who is previously known as AMP Capital, because Dexis is our new employer. They bought us, and I've been looking after the entire digital platform, CRM platform, and the ERP. So, my current role is a bit broader than just Salesforce, but having said that, there's always been Salesforce in my career for last little bit more than 15 years. Uh, Introduction was, as I said, I have done so many different roles in the 15 years, and of course, I didn't put as a when I was a developer back then. There is no Salesforce, so we've been developing on the mainframe. So so it's not. So Salesforce was a kind of a game changer for me, and I started as a business analyst, tech business analyst. Then I became a consultant, then solution architect, of course, gradually, organically, whatever you want to say, project manage, program management, then platform managers, and beyond. So that's what I have been doing for last 15 years.
So I have a question, like how did you move from business analyst to consultant? It would be interesting to know.
So um, I think Salesforce is something. When I was a tech BA, so Salesforce is when I learned Salesforce, then I really the person who are really helping us in our implementation. So okay, just a bit of a background that the first time I've been working in Salesforce is with American Express, and back then American Express was the second largest implementation was happening in American Express. They are kind of implementing merchant service. They called it Merchant Force, and it's for 22 countries across the globe. And I was it was like it was a recession time, or but having said that, I was very fortunate in 2007. Because of that, they couldn't hire more resource, so we had opportunity to go and learn Salesforce. They encouraged that, and while learning that, I partnered up with some person who became the partner of Salesforce later on. He actually gave me the opportunity as a consultant in Deloitte. So this is kind of I moved on like that. So and again, having said that, consulting and business analyst is I mean, I don't know about other country, other market, but has been in Australia for such a long time. I found it a similarity is there, because end of the day, as a consultant, you do go and gather requirements, but only thing is this time you also implement it. So business analysts actually helped me to understand what really customer wants or our client wants, and then deploy that. Have I answered your question correctly, Rimsa?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, just a quick snapshot, guys. As you can see that I'll put that thing in the red, and I think I'm going to repeat that like so many times in this presentation. That preparation is always the key to success. I believe it by the core, and this is what I mean. I'm not saying I'm a huge successful person, but I cannot complain as well at the same time. So, because I learn how to get prepared all the time. Doesn't really matter the job is small or big, or doesn't really matter whether I'm going on a leave or going for a holiday. I always prepare myself over, so that I know that I have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and things like that. So preparation is always the key. And as you can see, that these are all the high level thing that you all know, whoever working in the Salesforce implementation. It doesn't really matter if any implementation, you always follow these, right? You have to do a change management, planning, requirement gathering, you're forming a project team, then vendor selection if you need a vendor, of course testing, training, and then you go live. So this is something I'm going to take you through. Some While doing this, I'm going to highlight some of my experience that definitely I have tried and I've been successful, and I'm keep on doing it. And whoever I was mentoring, and they are following this as well, and they've been successful as well. So, any question before I move to a bit more, delve into details?
No,
Cool.
it's fine. You can move.
Okay. So, this is something I'm going to emphasize change management. Like most of the project fails because of change management, believe it or not. If you go and do a Google survey, or Google, if you do your analysis research, Google, Chat GPT, wherever you go, you'll find that the biggest reason people will say project fell because of change management. Because this is something, uh, most of the companies, they started late, to be honest. But change management is something you have to start even before you are, started the project. So as soon as that's why I said, like, early implementation, starting with the senior management vision, and like what happened, why you do a project. First of all, you are doing a project because you really want to improve your, user experience or process improvement and things like that. So definitely how it comes, because it comes from the, every year senior management sit down, they come up with their vision, they come up with their strategy and all. So that, if the vision is saying we need to move on to Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, doesn't really matter, whatever they're really wanting to achieve, then that's from there they need to actually delve into the details of how they're going to push this change. Because it's a change in a culture. Even though if you're giving a better process to people, some people are so used to of doing the things they're doing. Now you're going to break that cycle, so you have to be very prepared. I give a very real life example. I don't know how many people have you been to Australia or not. So Australia is one of the Australia, there's not many banks, a very handful of banks, and one of the bank is called Commonwealth Banks. If you guys know that, that's the biggest Australian bank at the moment. There are other bank as well, like ANZ. A lot of people have heard about ANZ. I believe in Pakistan also we have ANZ branches. Um, then Westpac and NAB. These are the big four banks in Australia. So Commonwealth Bank share price is $100, 100 and something maybe. If you go and you'll see find that. But all other banks share price is $30. The same Commonwealth Bank, when I came to Australia first in 2000, people used to hate Commonwealth Bank because the technology was so boring. There is no innovation, nothing like that. And I started working for Commonwealth Bank in 2003. What I found is their CEO, they really felt like we need to do a change. And what they did is they actually said every single division, doesn't really matter you're a bank teller or doesn't really matter you're a CEO. You have to every Monday you have to commit. I'm gonna do these 10 things, and you can repeat those 10 things every week, no problem. But I'm gonna emphasize on these 10 things. That's how they start the change management. And now Commonwealth Bank has the most cutting edge technologies, and Commonwealth Bank share price is at $100, and all other bank share price is $30, as you can see that. So, but all this thing happened because they realized that I have to change the culture, I have to break the cultures, I have to think. So they started on change management even before, like after 2003. By the time they changed their core banking, it was 2009 or something. So see that 6 or 7 years back they started the change management, and see the fruits after 9 years. They are the number one bank in Australia. Not only that, when they actually released their, the net bank app, that was for a moment that was the number one in the entire world. So smooth and so easy to use. Think about that. So that's because of happened because the change management, they really spend a lot of money on change management. As a result, that investment, now they're now they're what do you call it, cashing on their, that investment. So that's what I'm saying is change management is very important. And most of the time you will find whatever doesn't really matter whenever you do a project. That project, is no way in the world you can give 100% of the requirements. The requirements can be 60%, 70% the maximum. That's how is a successful of the project. And then 30% is something you go, change request, or phase one, phase two, phase three, whatever you want to call it. But that 70%, how, if the change management is in place, then you will say successful. If there's no change management, then you will find that project, even though you deliver more than 70%, project failed, because user is not using the system. So what's the point of, spending millions of dollars when user doesn't like your system? So user don't like your system. So that's why I'm just emphasizing on the change management. So, you know you don't have to be a project manager, or you don't have to be a senior executive to make a call. But as a project team member, if you're working in a project, you should emphasize on this change management, and your company or your project should have a very clear change management plan as well. If you guys have any questions, more than happy to answer. As I said, moving to the next slide. Okay. Now, I mean, now of course, obviously, logically comes project planning. So I call it organized planning. It's not only you are planning the project. You need to all these key items in this slide. Everything, every single thing is important. First of all, how are you going to do the project? I mean, most of the people, we do agile, we do Scrum. You're lucky. You guys are lucky now. You guys, when I'm saying lucky, means because now everyone knows as a product owner. When I started implementing project, when I started doing Scrum or Agile or what it was very new back then, and nobody actually knew what is a product owner is, and and it was very hard for us to um, explain them, like, if you're on a product owner, it's a full-time job. Now people, you will see like product owner, this kind of job is available right now, right? But before then there was no such thing called product owner. We have to educate people to do that, but still some companies struggling to understand why you need a product owner as a full-time job. So I think you need to, and that's something very, very important to understand. When you are, doesn't really matter what methods you do, product owner is the way now, and product owner is a full-time role. Second thing is, of course, product owner, to be an efficient product owner, it's really important that product owner knows what that person going to do. So get trained. There's a lot of company now. Sometimes if you have 10, 12 people, some organizations comes to your organization and train you as well. So something is very important, so that you're very solid. Understand how the project is going to get delivered. Then one other thing, I've been always doing it, and this always helped me to dodge a lot of bullets. The racy metrics, right? So I do that all the time. So every of my project will have a very clear racy metric: who is responsible, who is accountable, right? Who is consultant, who should be informed. So we know that very clearly, and names against it. If that name is not there, the role has to be there, and that some person is going to go and do that. So it is very clear. And whenever I do a project planning, or if nowadays I have a project manager working for me, but I make sure the project, either I do the project or my project manager is doing the project, they have this very clearly, delivery plan very clearly. It doesn't really matter. You're saying that, oh, we're doing Scrum, why you need a project plan? No, you do need a project plan. How are you going to deliver the Scrum? Like, when I want to see that 2 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever the Scrum is. If it's 2 weeks, then it's fine. If it's 4 weeks, fine. But 4 weeks, I want to see how you're going to deliver those tasks. I'm very old school when it comes to that, because in that way we don't miss anything, right? Risk and its register, it has to be there. We know what risk is coming, what issue is coming. Data migration plan is, this is, again, I'm going to emphasize on this. I have done so many projects, there was no data migration plan initially, and because of that, by the time the new system has been built, but how are you going to get the data from the old system? One of the project I've done, because of Salesforce, we created so many transaction table to help their business, because the previous database was not that complicated. But what really they asked for, we had to make a very complex complex solution for them. So we had a lot of different tables, a lot of objects in Salesforce, right? So data migration actually didn't work. So what we had to do is we had to hire, those school graduates to data entry, because when you do a data entry, all those transactions are getting created. We found it that easier than actually do a data migration. So we had to do that. So to avoid those kind of thing, you have to. I think this is very important. Very important to understand. Like a change management, when you're gathering requirements, you need to make sure that you have a data migration plan as well. The second is test planning, testing planning. This is something pretty important when you are, how are you going to test strategy. Like when it's a test plan, I mean test strategy and test plan together, right? And the transition plan, sometimes that, if it's especially ERP kind of project, where that we have to use both the system, the new system and the old system, for a while, because of the huge thing, you have to go phase approach. In that time, how you going to maintain both systems? If you do not plan it in the beginning, I can guarantee you that if you are the project manager, you will get fired at the end of the thing, or people will pull your hairs. As simple as it is. So you have to have that very clearly transition plan. I'm more than happy if you guys want to add something onto it, on top of it, what I've just said. But if I covered everything, I can move into the next one. Cool. Right. Forming a team. It's very important to form a team. Of course, the team will have a lot of different things, but two people, two or more than two roles, or that can be more than one person, of course, is very important. One is internal business SMEs. It's very important. You pick up people who actually know that. Every company, there will be, you'll find that people, they're very passionate. They innovation. They like innovation. They understand your business process very clearly. They have as been they've been working there. Everyone likes that kind of person, and they can go to anyone and gather information that not easy to gather sometimes. So that kind of person, or more than one person, should be in your team. Also, at the same time, like example, if you're doing a Salesforce project, and you're not, and that company wasn't using Salesforce before, or if, then you need to hire a person who actually understand the platform and domain. In that way, what will happen is that person will work very closely with the SME, and then the requirement, because end of the day, you're going to implement Salesforce, right? So your requirement has to be, sometimes prototyping helps, right? Sometimes, or that person can help you with the prototypes and all, and that way the requirements can be gathered such a meaningful way, so that when it comes to implement that, it's very easy. So these two role in your team has to happen, or should be there. If it's not there, then project gonna suffer. And of course, you will have project managers, you will have one lot of other people as well, but these are the two two roles, or more than two roles, or two-person should be part of your team. Okay.
So far, there's a question from Jerry that
Sure.
an actual document outlining your steps taken, or it is a blueprint.
Which one? Sorry, say it again.
So he's asking about your document, like it is outlining your steps taken, or is a blueprint.
uh it's a blueprint, of course, but for which slides? I missed that. That's why I'm asking. So the question again, is the question from this form a team slides, or is it just a question, Gary? check. Well,
Jerry, you can ask your question. Put your mic on and ask your question, please. Farooq, can you see the Jerry's questions in the chat? Can you show a quick example of a project delivery method?
can I show a quick example of a project delivery method? Okay, sure. I so quick example. The method was for last 10 or 12 years we've been using. I have been using, of course, Agile, and Scrum is the way. Scrum is the method to deliver the project. Uh, and however, in Scrum, of course, I do not go. I do not use the typical, because I mean, first of all, like Scrum have a lot of different meaning for people, right? Scrum is not. Scrum doesn't has to be 2 weeks. Scrum doesn't has to be a 4 weeks, right? Scrum, you can actually define your Scrum method based on the project needs, right? So, answer to your question, to be specific, I do use Scrum, and Agile is the way I do that. But however, like, having said that, when it comes to requirements gathering, I actually prefer not to go by any. I'd like to do a waterfall kind of planning, because I wanna really spend some time on gathering requirements. I don't wanna gather requirements and deliver that kind of thing. I don't like, because that's why what we found is a lot of changes are coming. So I rather take couple of months time to, which I'm going to share in my slides pretty soon as well. I would like to take a couple of months to get the requirements, process documentation and all that, and then of course there will be some detail requirements maybe may not be there, but while delivering it through the Scrum, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. But for me, depends on the project size. Like if I'm doing a multi-million dollar projects, uh, multi-million dollar project, then I will definitely do not go 2 weeks sprint. I go always 4 week sprint, because 2 weeks is very short. But however, having said that, if I am doing a small project, couple of 100,000 or enhancement projects, in that case I might do a 2 weeks, because already something has been built. Now we're adding new features to it, so that would be 2 weeks a sprint. Hope I have answered your question, Yuri. Cool. Okay, I'm going back to my slide.
Yeah, please.
So, already talked about the former team. Now, requirements gathering. So this is a very common. I believe everyone have seen this. So, sometimes in your life that actually the actually customer wanted something, but so many different things has been built, because there's a thing. That's why I would say user requirements is very important when you're gathering it. That's why I want to take that time, instead of listening and start building. No, I don't want to do that. I want to take, as I said, waterfall approach. I take always for the requirement gathering. I give a couple of months to gather all the requirements. At the same time, I do a couple of things. I make sure that there's as is process and to be process documentation is very important, because this actually helps the change management team as well. They know what was they're doing, what was they're doing before, what they were going to be doing. So in that way, they can feed the change accordingly. Data requirements, as I said, is very important. From day one, I do data requirements. Of course, if system is nowadays, you cannot do it by one system. You have to have some kind of connection with other systems, right? So integration requirement is very important. Test strategy and scripts. These are the five fundamental thing I always have before I actually start the project. Does it has to be fully finalized form? No, but it should have enough information so that I can easily do. If I going by month sprint, easily I can survive for a couple of months. That kind of detail has to be there. The rest of the thing can be worked in the background. This is how I do it. But one thing I put highlighted here is very important. Every single requirement must be testable. If you are not if you don't know how to test your requirement, then that's not a requirement for me. And I stick by that principle, and so far I haven't. I'm not sorry for that. I'm always smiling because of that approach. Okay. The next one is vendor consulting company. Nowadays, to be very honest, nobody gonna go and form a Salesforce team or any other team to deliver something. They always, rely on the vendor company. But when you rely on the vendor company, there is I think, of course, the mindset change. But I'm talking about, if you go back 10, 12 years, one of the thing I found is people, the companies actually think, hey, this vendor can say like Deloitte, or I'm sorry, I'm not naming anyone. Everyone has have a very thing, but I'm saying Deloitte. I've worked Deloitte, right? I work for Accenture as well. So I know that people think that as a Deloitte or Accenture, we have some kind of magic wand and we're going to come and we're going to fix everything. No, it doesn't really happen. So at the end of the day, we are exactly the human beings. We have some experience. We have some expertise on something. So that's why, like, when you're selecting a vendor, if you're part of that process, you have to make sure that you know what their expertise are, what is their experience in the domains as well. And of course, you don't believe, I'm not saying don't believe you, but at the same time you need to do some checking, right? So you need to say, if they're saying that, okay, I've done X, Y, and Z with that company or this company, then you need to go and get a reference check with them as well, that how well they have done it. That's very important. At the same time, you need to know that what kind of team they have nowadays. If if you don't, if a consulting company do not have offshore capabilities, project will be very expensive. So I think it's very important to understand their offshore capabilities and how well they are sync with their offshore team as well, right? And of course, that's why it comes. That's where the communication and collaboration is coming, because that's the key. And it's when early days, when I was working for American Express, pretty often we used to find that, like, we have said something to the onshore people, and offshore people actually delivered exactly opposite, right? Because there's a communication gap, collaboration wasn't right. But nowadays there's a lot of tools. Slack is helping you. You have Microsoft Teams, whatever works, and you can actually, the how it's so easy to come into a video chat nowadays. It wasn't that simple even 10, 12 years back, right? So now you have all this thing. You need to make sure that that's been used properly, and how well formed the team is. Also, the team has to be flexible.
Have give me a second. We can hear you. I think you are mute. Please unmute yourself and then please start.
Oh, you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear now. Thank you.
What did you miss? I was talking about. Have you
Yeah, I
talked?
did it accidentally.
eh, I
Yeah,
was talking about the vendor. Is it something?
yeah.
Okay, share my screen again. So again, I'll just quickly, if vendor, you see the requirements, right? The vendor was talking that then I got muted, or before then, Rimsa?
last minute, like on their same slide.
This slide, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So quickly going back to the point is like, end of the day, the vendor you're choosing, the vendor budget and cost is very important. And that's why if the vendor has the offshore capability, it's really really helpful as well. And final part is the support and maintenance, because um, if that the vendor you're selecting, whether they have a support and maintenance team or not, that's really helps. Because if you're only using the vendor just for the implementation, then after that, like, when you start the system, you'll find so many issues are coming which you have never thought about. Because you are when you're actually implementing something, it doesn't really matter how much testing you do, you're actually not doing everyday kind of using testing, right? It's like, if you I did this is the example I give it to people, that you know if you living in a house, you just bought a house, you got in, once you start living in that house, you'll find that, oh my, this thing is not that good, or that thing is really good. So then you go and kind of improve, right? You put new tap, or you put new lawn and things like that, right? So that's why support and maintenance is very important, because the person who are actually building it, they're gonna go and do a support and maintenance. In that way, the best part is they already built it, so they know what happened. And at the same time, they will feel responsible, because as they have built it for you, so they would find that, okay, it's like, otherwise what happens is, if somebody builds it and you ask, you give it the support and maintenance to somebody else, they'll be like, support and maintenance people go, so we haven't built it, somebody else has built it, and they try to do a blaming game. So that's why it's better to have a support contract. The vendor consulting company is actually building the solution for you. And of course, then you might have a transition plan to have your own, but initially, I would say at least for 1 year, it's better to have that vendor company supporting you as well. Cool. Now, this is kind of the finals, like, like all these thing is done. Now you're actually gonna go and do the project. So I'm just kind of repeating everything I said. Is project kickoff. Make sure that your stakeholder sponsors, everyone is there. You are very clear on your objectives. You're very clear on your deliverables, roles, and communications. Roles, going back to that RACI metrics, is very important. A task assignment. So when you're assigning a task, communicate expectation, deadlines, dependencies, established schedule. So that's why I said, like, doesn't really matter. You are doing a 2 week sprint, you are doing a 4 week sprint. I like to see a project plan for that 2 weeks. How you gonna how what are you doing when you are testing, when you're bug fixing, all this kind of very very clearly. When I was a PM, I was doing it, and now my PM, they have to produce that. I mean, that's I'm still old school on that. Sometimes they try to, oh, you don't need a project plan, but you need a project plan. That's if you want to work with me, you need a project plan. Resource management, of course, when you're working, you will find some people that are very good at something, some people are not good at something. That's as a team leader, you have to, or project manager, you have to understand that how you're gonna manage your resource, so that you get the most productivity out of them. And of course, very clear communication. It's an open channel. Every sprint I always do sprint retro is very, even though that sprint went absolutely brilliant, I still do a retro, because I believe there's always room for improvement. And not only that, something I might have missed, because of the sprint successful doesn't mean that everyone is happy about it, right? You might have really pressured the team to deliver something which burn them out. So I might could be able to do something better. So that's why it's very important, with the open communications, and you resolve all the issues, all this effectively. And the risk management, right? Is find something early, fail early. So this is another thing I think you guys have heard so many times, and I do believe that, find something, flag something early, and something. I've been working 15 years, 23 of experience doesn't mean that Farouk knows everything. You may be working just 1 year. I learned, because in the Deloitte, I used to train all the graduates.
Why is everyone left the meeting? I don't know what happened. Okay, okay, okay. Or can you present your screen?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please present your screen and start your presentation. I
Yes.
did create a breakout rooms and I think it just happened.
Yeah, something really happened. I've been presenting. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
You can see the slides.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool. So, and end of the day, as I said, like change management is very important, and stakeholder engagement, right? Stakeholder engagement, because end of the day, the project you are doing, this is the stakeholders. They are the one who actually, you know, put their trust on you, and then they spend money on you as well, right? So they have to make sure that they have a very, very clear communication with them, and you manage their expectation at the same time. Documentation. Again, I might not have spoken about this before, but it's very important in documentation. Confluence I use most of the time. SharePoint also been used, but Confluence I really like. It's very easy to, everyone can have access, and then you can update projects at the same time. But one thing I've always, or I'm very strict about this. If a requirement change, I always make sure that my team, whoever responsible for that, they update the requirements in the Confluence, so that the Confluence is always up to date. Issue resolution, of course, when you're any issues you're facing, you actually go and face it. It's a no-brainer. But the last point is the project closure. This is very important. When I say project closure, it doesn't mean a project closure. I mean project closure. Even a successful in sprint, you may be way early to close the project, but celebrate the success is very important. Call out like this sprint got successful because of Jerry done this excellent. Call out names for sure, and then so that they feel encouraged, their commitment get highlighted. And if you are the leader, I found in my life some people, they're very stingy when it's come to share, share people's success. Don't do that. It's a team game, right? So yeah, you need to make sure that everyone who is contributing, they get the reward and recognition for that. And 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 you are always, by doing that, you always gain the respect, and that will help in the long run at the same time. That's about me. That's about it, actually. But yeah, I'm more than happy to take questions now if you guys have any.
Thank you, Farooq. Now, can you see the QA section of the chat?
I'll quickly go there now. Okay.
There's a question from Jerry. Also, I
Just
think we have missed a question from Ubaidullah Tariq.
it's in
He's
the
asking about
okay.
the requirement implementation. how we can test a requirement before implementation in the general
How?
section.
Yes, it's a good question, right? How we can test the requirements. So when I say test the requirements, like user story is a good example. So I am saying that when when a user is logging in, the user should see, you know, a login page should see a graph or something. I'm just giving the salespeople will say like, I want to see a sales, I want to see a sales dashboard example, and sales dashboard should show you X, Y, and Z. So what I mean by requirement testable is when you're writing your user acceptance criteria, which is your test case is going to end up, then you can actually saying that, hey, as a sales manager, when I log in, this is the first thing. The next thing is the dashboard should come, and dashboard should show X, Y, and Z, right? And nowadays you can create a, how the dashboard going to look like in Salesforce. You can actually create similar kind of thing very quickly, or you can do something in Excel as well, and you put that screenshot in there. So this is how you're saying that when this is how you're actually testing your requirements. So even before you build it. Again, another good example, when opportunity closed, I want my sales team to get, sorry, I want my implementation team to get an email. They have to do X, Y, and Z, right? So break all those tasks, what exactly they want to do, and put that in the user acceptance criteria. So when you actually build that, whoever is testing, they know that yes, the opportunity is closed. Now I'm going to test X, Y, and Z, and this those that's what I mean, that your requirement should be testable. If that answer your question, Ubaidullah. For some reason I cannot see the Q&A though. I don't know.
So there's a QA section in the general.
In the general Q, oh yes, got it now.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
cool.
are two questions. One is from Jerry and another one is from Yawar Abbas. So please.
Okay, Jerry asks, can you show us an example of risk mitigation plan that you created on the recent project? If you don't have one ready, that's okay. I don't have anything on this. Very sorry for that, but I just give you a very good example. I am at the moment. JD is one of my platforms, which is our ERP system. So we are doing all we are think we are doing. This is happening at the moment. Tools migrate, we call it the tools upgrade. Sorry. So JD comes up with few tools, and we're upgrading this tool. It's something comes every year, and when you do that, it's quite a large implementation, because you have to test a lot of those features, because it's working fine or not. Even though upgrading, sometimes something can be broken, right? So this is a risk, but the risk is example for us for upgrading this, that the system, we have to put the system down, and all the while we're upgrading it, and all the integration we have to stop. This is what we have to do. So for me, the risk is, it's definitely, the risk is that integration may not work. That be because of that. What JD does is they actually build the tenants and things. So that's why I have a manual. The mitigation plan was, I have a way of manually run those batches if the automation doesn't work. So I have that mitigation plan in place. I've already spoken to business knows what needs to be done. If something goes wrong by tomorrow, then Monday comes, they will do that manually. So that's a mitigation plan I have in place.
Nice. Great answer.
Cool. Which meeting did you find the most helpful? Which one you find not useful, but still it's constantly used as a practice in a company? If something doesn't work, I don't use it. Just to be very honest. Stand up, a good example is stand up, right? For some projects I do stand up every day. For some project I do stand up once in a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't do things just for sake of doing it. As simple as it is, right? Which one really helps? I would say retro. As I said, sprint retro always helps, because I know that it's really giving me the feedback. I need to improve. Other thing I really enjoy doing it, which is the sprint planning, because that's the key. If you, as I said, play. preparation and planning is the key, right? So if you plan it right, you actually deliver it right as well. So that's why sprint planning I really enjoy, and I always really sweat on it, because I want to make sure that sprint planning, normally sprint planning always happen for at least couple of hours or sometimes half a day as well, right? Or sometimes one day as well, depends on how big your project is. But I want to make sure that people are giving 1 hour or 2 hours their time, they want to get the most out of it. So project sprint planning is something I'm very cautious and very looking forward to as well. um wha- the question, Ali has the question. Hello, I'm delighted to connect with you for a while. Thank you, Ali. What are your recommendations for non-IT professional who are new to the Salesforce industry, and what skills should they gain when Salesforce is built something and no one has done? Trailhead. Trust me, no other company. I don't. Salesforce spend bill multi-million dollars on it and free of
Exactly.
charge. Trailhead is something. It doesn't really matter. You are skilled. Your IT. Your background is IT or not. Doesn't really matter. Start with the admin journey. Finish your admin. Do your admin first, and then the intermediate, then advanced. But having said that, don't just do that blindly. If you're doing something, and if you've stuck to a thing, and if you have a playground to play with, also you will have someone who can actually, in your company or in your network, who are happy to help, right? So try to use that and make sure that you don't fly. You just don't do it. And also there are project you can do in the trailhead as well. So I'm really highly encourage you to do those projects as well. So in that way, what you'll find, you'll actually find a real solution, so real challenge, real solution, so that's how you're gonna learn more. Saeed, you said that that's a short and amazing answer. Thank you. Thanks, Saeed. What doesn't work shouldn't happen. Yes, exactly. What doesn't work shouldn't happen is exactly right. You sprint planning and retro after every sprint, even if it went smooth. Yep. Thanks, Ollie. Yep. I think I've answered almost all the question. Anything else? Look, I'm going to give a very good example with Rimsa and myself. We have never met.
Yeah.
Rimsa, somehow, we got connected, of course, and Rimsa reached out to me asking question. Whether I always, if anyone asking me a question, I always take time to answer. Maybe not straight away, but I would always answer. That's what Rimsa can,
This
is
is
a
the
good,
this is
is a good,
fair.
good it's a good example, right? So
Yeah.
feel free to come and ask me or somebody else. More than happy to help, right? If you guys are thinking of something and doing something, help. And on Salesforce, when I started Salesforce, the Salesforce is now is it's much bigger. Like industry is in place, a lot of things is in place, right? Now, even Salesforce, do not. I think you have to always, know your end goal. The way I say it, right? I always wanted to be a platform manager kind of person. That's what I wanted to be. That's what my end goal was. So decide your end goal. Of course, you don't have to stick to it. If something doesn't work, change and move on. But having said that, you always should have an end goal. That's the only thing I would always, ask you to have, and that's how you can actually. If you don't have a goal, how are you going to achieve it? Simple as it is. And end of the day, do not even. I was just reading a post today, and I was really laughing that people should not spend time on seeing other people's lives. They should be spending time on seeing that neither own wealth, when own health and things. So that's why, like, do not who achieved what, who earns more than you, who actually is successful more than you. Don't even bother about that. You know yourself what you can achieve, and set a goal yourself, and you will definitely get to that goal. And as I said, to do that, put some effort on it. Like I know, if you are a believer in God or Allah, then at the end of the day, put your trust and do your best. And if you do not believe in God, I'm not saying nothing wrong in it as well, right? But having said that, the fundamental goes in the same, right? That do your best and challenge yourself to go to that, and always be friendly and helpful others. If you help somebody, somebody will help you. Trust me. And if you can help, definitely go and help people as well, and make their career shining.
Absolutely correct.
And thank you, Rimsa. Really, and as I said, I haven't done it before. I've done it internally, but thanks for giving me the offer. I feel like, why not? Let's try. And more than happy if you guys have any questions to answer it. Chat, send me a personal message, and I'll
Yeah,
definitely reply.
it was a great session, I would say. A great, you answered all the questions, and really, I really enjoyed our whole session. Thank you so much for joining us today, Farooq. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you for joining in the weekend as well. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So now we are moving to the referral, and let me share my screen. Can you confirm? Is my screen visible? You guys can see the smile, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's start. Here we go. Hassan Mustafa. So we have our winner, Hassan Mustafa. Okay. So now I'm doing again for the swag 2. Like, okay. This is Idrissa Fatma. Congratulations, Idrissa and Hassan. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I will connect to you both for the further details, and you will get your sex. Thank you. Bye, everyone.